Hello, everybody. Welcome to this Turbo Talk on reducing overheads associated with managing the integrity of your content suite extended ECM information. My name is Alistair Grigg. I'm the Managing Director of Fastman. I'm joined today by David Henshaw, who's the CTO. As we go through this presentation, please note that there is a chat session available. Please enter your questions in the chat session and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Let's get into it. So Fastman has evolved over the years to become pretty focused in our product sense on security and integrity of information management, or enterprise information, I should say, which can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. But in our world, it means really four fundamental things, three or four fundamental things. It means managing the permissions and access control, access for your, for your system. So things like permissions manager, functional access, and so on. It means managing your data correctly. So giving you the tools to be able to manage your data easily, quickly, in the cloud or on-premise, migrating data in, consolidating into your system, this sort of thing. In our world, it also means the world of digital signatures as a DocuSign partner. We spend a lot of time working with customers to resolve their business processes around digital signatures. And in that sense, we also have an offering around technical services, which we won't spend a lot of time on today, but it is there if we need it. So now we all know that OpenText Content Suite Extended ECM has got a complex but critical permissions and access control layer. So that's what we're going to focus on first. And it's a world that is changing very quickly because people are using their systems far more these days than they were as a central repository, even though traditionally that's been an aspect of this design intent of the system. Over the last few years, we've found customers have been using it far more for integration with things like SAP and Salesforce and Dynamics, Maximo, these sorts of things. So very, very much more a world that's becoming more complex when you look at the permissions and access controls that are required in that area. So that's really that's the world we live in, if you like, which we've been working with for the last 20 odd years. And of course, we're finding more and more customers are talking about cloud. And it seems like a nirvana that we like to have this concept that we're going to go into the cloud and we're going to have everything out, having someone else control it and so on and so forth, which in a lot of ways is good and true. But it's not as simple as you might make out, because once you start doing that, you move away from this kind of simplistic world that we've had in the past with managing our own data centers and our own systems. So David spends quite a bit of time, don't you, David, around managing and helping customers with things like authentication and so on of systems when they are in the cloud, even a private cloud. It's a different world now. So we'll talk a little bit more in a second. So I'm going to hand over to David now, and he's going to explain this little model we've come up with. So David, this is your idea. When we got together earlier this year, we spent quite a bit of time talking about it. So it'd be great if you could just explain to everybody what this little design or little diagram represents.
Yeah, the triangle of trust, Alistair.
That's the nice English, the nice clean version of it, isn't it?
Yeah. I think what we're tending to notice these days is, as you touched on before, that the world of access control is moving beyond just permissions. We're moving and noticing with our customer base that whilst OpenText provides a very strong and robust permissions model and granular level control, that customers are also seeking functional control based upon things like metadata that's assigned to objects. So the triangle of trust was sort of born out of that realization that we have fundamentally three things within OpenText, or two things within the OpenText world, being the permissions and the object and usage privileges. So we can restrict who can create what types of objects. We can restrict certain functions that they can perform, but they're very much global. You can create a document, you can't create a document. You can use this feature, you can't use that feature. We have permissions, which then obviously overlay once you have those usage rights, what objects you can use those with. But we had nothing really in that bottom left corner about being able to regulate who can actually do something with an object based upon metadata-driven rules, which is where we're looking to head, and combine with our permissions management product and give customers the ability to regulate control based upon functional access.
It is fair to say that over the years we've had quite a few conversations with customers who don't really understand the interactions between these areas, and go to some lengths to try and achieve outcomes using, like in the functional aspect, using permissions, things like managing read-only license usage and so on. We see that quite often. And they try to use permissions to do it, but it's really a functional access.
Certainly, Alistair. In sort of in lay terms, permissions only takes you so far. And there's always that I think there's that eventual realization with people that is the case. And also, do you really want to be having to maintain and change your permissions on a near daily, weekly, or monthly even basis just to try and restrict things? And then somebody changes a role and you need to grant access again.
Correct.
Are there ways and means that you can leave your permissions model aligned with your organizational goals and access policies, but essentially deny access to people based upon something that you can readily just turn on or off as required?
Yep.
Based upon, again, that metadata concept. If document is classed as type XYZ, I want to restrict access to these people.
Yeah, it's complex, isn't it?
Oh, very complex, and
goes back to that model we started with all the boxes on the slide. All the pieces of the puzzle that are not obvious to the customer, or not that obvious to the end user. Probably obvious to the system administrator, but not obvious to the end user and the things, and even the business type user. It's much more complex system than people realize. So,
yep.
So that's good. Thank you for that. And so just some examples, David.
Yeah, so as we mentioned, we're looking to move down into the territory of being able to govern access based upon metadata-driven rules. An example there, the ability to change or edit attributes on a piece of content based upon an existing attribute value. So you may have a business process where a particular attribute moves through a series of values depending on the life cycle of content, and when you get to a particular value, you want to deny any further changes to the attribute values or deny removal of categories. Looking at things like managing access to content based upon group membership. So rather than having to change your permissions to deny access, which is obviously something you can't explicitly do within Content Suite. There's no deny; it's a grant model. So with our solutions, being able to actually say, well, if you're a member of this group and the document is classified as a design document, I only want you to be able to read the document, not being able to edit it.
There's lots of examples, aren't there?
Oh, there's lots of combinations, Alistair. It becomes a very big matrix.
Yeah. And every time we talk to customers actually who are spending a lot of time in this area, it's interesting to hear the different use cases and scenarios that they come up with, and the business processes that are in play around this. We could spend days and hours on this topic, quite frankly. So just moving, I got to keep moving on, I'm afraid, David. I appreciate it time-wise. We've got halfway through our 15 minutes already. The permissions manager, this is just a slide on the product. We can get into this more later on, but this is just a slide talking about the functionality. The access manager piece, which David spent a bit of time on, this is the sort of functionality we're talking about around our access manager product, and these are all products within this permissions and access control solution set that we started off with the boxes at the start. Always nice to recognize customers that use our products and have customers say that they appreciate our products. So Peter Yarn from SDK CEN, a great customer of ours in Belgium, and also Marcus, who many of you might know, has been a customer of Fastman's for a number of years, and love working with both of them. So thank you very much for for putting your names in lights, as it is. So just keeping on moving along, very conscious of time. So the next piece of this is our data transformation solution set, which does go hand in hand with the permissions and access control, but it's really about giving customers the ability to be able to update and transform data, and to migrate, consolidate, do things like update metadata, and to migrate with records management applied, all that sort of stuff in bulk, using some searching functionality to be able to find content regardless of where it is in the system and apply common changes to that content regardless, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of aspects to this which we don't have time to get into today, but data transformation is a big term, and we kind of use it without really with hesitancy, I would say, because it is such a big term. So we consolidate, or we concentrate our thoughts on the data, the managing of the data that I talked about a minute ago. But really, really important, customers have challenges around this area. So your Content Suite as a platform, and David, you and I have worked in this area for a long time now, but Content Suite as a platform was designed from day one to be able to manage large volumes of data. And those large volumes of data have got larger as time's gone on. We used to talk gigabytes, now we're talking terabytes and petabytes and all this sort of stuff. But the basic problem hasn't changed, has it? It's still the same as it used to be. So it's really important. And the other thing that's becoming more important with customers who are doing a lot more, as we know, cloud type services, self-service is a real big deal for them. You don't want to have to go all the time to a service desk or to an outsourced service provider or to do work. You really want to give the tools to the end customer or the end user. So our data transformation, our bulk data manager, and our bridge connector and so on are designed to be used by the end user, which is a theme you'll see across the whole of our products, really. So again, simplifying the problem. These problems can get complex if you're not careful. And under the covers, they are complex in many cases, but we try and simplify it. So we have these three areas, the same as you saw with permissions and access control, content migrations, metadata bulk updates, orchestrating process. These are all things that come under our solution of data transformation. David, do you want to quickly touch on some of these examples?
Yeah, I think, Alistair, I'd probably prefix what I'd say with going back to the cloud point. Mm-hmm. Customers pivot to cloud for a variety of reasons, but I think what we're seeing is if the end users, if your business don't have the tools to interact at volume and at scale with those services, with a content services platform, it becomes a hindrance and it drives them away. So you can move down a cloud path, but if you don't have the ability as a business to bulk ingest content, assign your categories, attributes, your metadata, your records management, and manage the integrity of that information that you're looking to manage through open text. If you don't have those end tools in users' hands, they will go elsewhere and circumvent the processes that you're trying to adopt.
It's a very good point. It's a very good point. And it's really easy for them to do that. Yes, it's really easy.
In this day and age, too easy.
Far too easy, yeah. So our solutions, and David as our CTO is responsible for the development and life cycle of these products. Our solutions come into 3 or 4 main areas. So we have our bulk data manager, which is pretty well known around the open text ecosystem and network. Been around a while, still highly relevant and being used by customers to move, as I said, terabytes of data in and around their systems on an active usage or data usage. Our bridge connector is a relatively new product designed to orchestrate, and there is product development around that, isn't it, David? Which we're working on at the moment, which we're really looking forward to seeing customers getting into. And we've got our extract tool, of course. But all these things are designed to integrate into each other so that they don't end up as a island. And again, some case studies. CNL, Canadian Nuclear Laboratories up in Ontario, used the BDM with Bridge Connector to resolve some issues they had around data structure and metadata management. And Government of Northwest Territory up in Yellowknife in Canada use BDM regularly to bring large amounts of data into their systems off shared files, off shared drives. So unfortunately, we don't have time to get into these today. There are case studies for both of these customers, which are really relevant. And lastly, before we sign off, we just need to touch on quickly the advanced signing process we have with Content Suite Extended ECM as a DocuSign partner. So more and more customers are implementing digital signature solutions with their open text platforms. And we have an advanced signing product focusing on the DocuSign solution, which allows people to sign documents using a lot more functionality than you get out of the box, and both the classic and the smart view. But getting more and more usage around the OpenText community. So again, something we'd be more than happy to talk to you about. But David, I think congratulations to you and your team for continually updating this and continually, addressing the use cases that customers have.
Thanks.
Sorry.
Thanks, Alistair.
It's well
recently added support for DocuSign templates as well, which was a great little feature.
Yeah, it's surprising, actually. And one of the good things about having control of your own IP is that you can do things in responding to customer needs fairly quickly. It's something we've learned as a vendor over the years. It's good. Now, context. We're just going to have to wrap up here, unfortunately. So you've seen David, myself, Brian Lapointe, who you may also know. On this context, I've put him down as a digital signatures subject matter expert. Many of you will know Brian from his DocuSign and OpenText world periods. He's been with Fastman now 2.5 years. So in terms of EMEA and a bit of APJ, Brian does a lot of work with customers in EMEA around the DocuSign particularly. So worth noting. And our contact details are there. Please feel free to reach out to us. David, thank you very much for spending this short time with us.
Pleasure.
And thank you, everybody, for taking the time to watch and listen. Look forward to meeting you. Thank you.